The moment I saw her posting selfies in my old kitchen, wearing my apron and calling him her man, I knew exactly what I had to do. I was not going to compete with a 24-year-old intern. I was going to educate her. The coffee mug trembled in my hands as I stared at my phone screen. There she was again. Lexi Martinez, 24 years old, blonde highlights perfectly placed, posing in what used to be my kitchen. The kitchen where I had spent countless mornings preparing Ethan's precisely timed breakfast routine, where I had learned to make his coffee exactly 3/4 full, no sugar, with a splash of oat milk added counterclockwise. Cooking for my man, her caption read, followed by a heart emoji and the hashtag blessed. My man. My man. The audacity was breathtaking. I set the mug down before I could shatter it against the wall. My hands were shaking now, not from sadness, but from something far more dangerous. Something that had been building inside me for 3 weeks. Ever since Ethan had delivered his carefully rehearsed speech about needing space to rediscover himself. Space. What a beautiful euphemism for abandoning your wife of 9 years for someone who was probably still using a fake ID to buy wine. I scrolled through more of her photos. There was Ethan in the background of several shots, looking ridiculously pleased with himself. He had gotten a spray tan, something I had never seen him do in nearly a decade of marriage. His hair was styled differently too, with more gel than a teenager at prom. He was wearing clothes I did not recognize, trying desperately to look younger, hipper, more like someone who belonged with a woman who thought posting mirror selfies was a personality trait. It was pathetic. And yet, it hurt more than I could have imagined. I had given this man the best years of my life. I had supported him through law school, working double shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat. I had been there through his father's death, holding him while he cried and helping him plan the funeral because he was too broken to function. I had celebrated every promotion, every victory, every small triumph as if it were my own. I had loved him completely. And he had thrown it all away for someone who probably did not even know his middle name. But as I sat there in my empty apartment, the one I had been forced to move into after he decided to keep our house for his new life, something shifted inside me. The grief that had been consuming me for weeks began to transform into something else entirely. Clarity. I opened my laptop and began to research. Lexi Martinez, intern at Davidson & Associates law firm. Recent graduate from a local college with a degree in communications. Social media presence that screamed desperation for validation. And based on her recent posts, she was completely clueless about what she had gotten herself into. She thought she had won the lottery. She had no idea she had just inherited a nightmare. The plan formed slowly, like pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. I was not going to fight for Ethan. I was not going to beg him to come back or try to compete with someone half my age. I was going to do something far more satisfying. I was going to give Lexi exactly what she wanted. A complete education in being Ethan's girlfriend. And then I was going to watch her run. The next morning, I sent her a direct message on Instagram. My hands were steady now, my mind clear and focused. Hi Lexi. I know this might seem strange, but I think we should talk. I have no interest in causing drama or trying to win Ethan back. I just think there are some things you should know about being with him. Would you be willing to meet for coffee? I promise I am not crazy, and I am not trying to sabotage anything. I just want to clear the air and maybe share some insights that might help you both be happy. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. She responded within an hour. Sure, I guess. But I am not going to listen to you badmouth him. Or try to make me feel guilty. He told me about how controlling you were, so I already know your deal. Controlling. Of course he had painted me as controlling. Taking care of someone's every need, anticipating their wants, managing their life so they could focus on their career. Apparently that was controlling now. I smiled as I typed my response. Of course not. I just want to help you avoid some of the mistakes I made. See you at Brewster's Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. She agreed. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I made lists, organized my thoughts, and most importantly, I practiced my delivery. This had to be perfect. Too obvious, and she would see through it. Too subtle, and she would miss the point entirely. I had to make her think I was being helpful while simultaneously showing her exactly what she had signed up for. The next afternoon, I arrived at Brewster's Cafe 15 minutes early. I chose a corner table with good lighting. I wanted to see every expression on her face. I ordered a simple coffee and waited. She walked in exactly on time, and I had to admit, she was beautiful. Young, fresh-faced, with that kind of effortless confidence that comes from never having been truly disappointed by life. She was wearing a crop top that showed off her flat stomach, and carrying a purse so small it could barely fit a phone. She spotted me immediately. I was the only woman in the cafe over 30, and approached with a smile that was equal parts nervous and smug. "You must be Sarah," she said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. "I am Lexi." "Thank you for meeting me," I replied, shaking her hand and gesturing to the chair across from me. "I really appreciate it. Can I get you something to drink?" "Just a green tea, thanks." I ordered her tea and watched as she settled into her chair, checking her phone twice and glancing around the cafe as if she was afraid someone might see her. "So," she said, folding her hands on the table, "Ethan said you wanted to talk. He also said you might try to convince me to leave him, so I just want to be clear that I am not going anywhere." I smiled warmly. "I would never ask you to do that. Actually, I think it is wonderful that Ethan has found someone who makes him happy. He deserves that." Her expression softened slightly. "Oh, well, that is not what I expected." "I know this whole situation is awkward," I continued, "but I have no interest in getting back together with him. Our marriage ran its course, and I am actually grateful that he was honest about his feelings instead of stringing me along." This was a complete lie, but she did not need to know that. "The thing is," I went on, "I spent 9 years learning how to make Ethan happy. I figured out all his little quirks and preferences, and I thought maybe I could share some of that knowledge with you. You know, help you avoid some of the trial and error I went through." Lexi's tea arrived, and she wrapped her hands around the mug, considering my words. "That is actually really mature of you," she said finally. "Most ex-wives would probably be way more bitter." "Well, I was bitter for a while," I admitted, "but I realized that holding on to anger was only hurting me. And honestly, watching Ethan try to be young again has been pretty entertaining." She laughed at this, and some of the tension left her shoulders. "The spray tan was my idea," she said with a grin. "I thought it would help him look more relaxed." "It certainly made him look different," I replied diplomatically. "So what kind of things did you want to tell me?" she asked, leaning forward slightly. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app, where I had prepared a carefully curated list. Well, first off, his morning routine is very specific. He needs to wake up at exactly 6:15 a.m., not 6:10, not 6:20. He will be grumpy all day if his internal clock is off. And his coffee has to be ready by 6:30, 3/4 full, with oat milk added counterclockwise. I know it sounds ridiculous, but trust me on this one. She was taking notes on her phone. He also changes his diet every month or so. Right now he is probably doing some kind of intermittent fasting thing, but next month it might be keto, or paleo, or whatever new trend he read about. Just go with it and try not to comment on how extreme it is." "Okay," she said, still typing. "What else?" "His laundry is really important to him. Everything has to be folded a specific way. His socks especially. He learned it in ROTC in college and never got over it. If you fold them wrong, he will redo them without saying anything, but he will be annoyed about it. Military-style sock folding. Got it." "And his mother," I continued, watching her face carefully. "She calls every Sunday at 4 p.m. sharp. Whatever you do, do not answer the phone if she calls. She still thinks I am his wife, and she has some very strong opinions about appropriate girlfriends for her son." Lexi looked up from her phone, frowning slightly. "What kind of opinions?" "Well, let us just say she has traditional values about age-appropriate relationships. She is not going to be your biggest fan initially, but if you can win her over with your cooking and your interest in his career, she might warm up to you." "His career?" "Oh yes, you will need to be very supportive of his work. He likes to come home and decompress by telling you about his day in great detail. Even if you have had a terrible day yourself, you will need to listen and ask thoughtful questions. He does not handle it well when the focus is not on him." I watched as this information sank in. Her enthusiasm was starting to fade slightly, And cooking, I continued. He is very particular about food. He thinks he is a food critic, so he will critique everything you make. Do not take it personally when he suggests improvements or compares your meals to restaurants. He means well, he is just very specific about his preferences. What are his preferences? I spent the next 20 minutes walking her through Ethan's complicated relationship with food. How he needed his vegetables cut a certain way. How he would not eat leftovers that were more than 2 days old. How he expected dinner to be ready by 7 p.m. every night regardless of what her schedule looked like. He also has this thing about the TV, I added. He refuses to watch anything with subtitles, but he also cannot hear dialogue very well, so you will spend a lot of time adjusting the volume and rewinding scenes. I learned to preload subtitles on Netflix and turn them on without him noticing. He cannot just wear headphones. You would think so, but he says they give him headaches. Lexi was looking increasingly overwhelmed. And his friends, I continued. They are going to be weird about you at first. They are all married to women closer to their own age, and they might make some comments. Just ignore them and focus on being charming. Eventually they will get used to you. What kind of comments? Oh, you know. Jokes about trophy wives, comments about how lucky Ethan is, that sort of thing. They do not mean anything by it. It is just their way of processing the age difference. This was not entirely true. Ethan's friends were actually decent people who had been horrified by his behavior, but I wanted her to be prepared for the worst. And his ex-wife, I said, gesturing to myself with a self-deprecating smile. He is going to compare you to me sometimes. Not in a mean way, just in a Sarah used to do this or Sarah always handled that kind of way. Try not to let it bother you. He is just adjusting to the change. That would definitely bother me, she admitted. I know it sounds like a lot, I said, softening my voice. But once you get the hang of it, it becomes second nature. And he really is a good man underneath all the quirks. He just needs someone who understands how to take care of him. Lexi nodded slowly, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. Would you be willing to show me how to make his favorite meal? She asked hesitantly. I tried to cook for him last week, and he barely touched it. Of course, I said, trying to hide my satisfaction. How about this weekend? I could come over and walk you through it step by step. That would be amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really did not expect you to be so nice about all this. Like I said, I just want everyone to be happy. We finished our drinks and exchanged phone numbers. As we stood to leave, Lexi hesitated. Can I ask you something? She said. Why did you and Ethan really break up? I mean, if you knew how to handle all his quirks and you were so good at taking care of him, what went wrong? I considered my answer carefully. I think I got tired of being his mother instead of his wife. I said finally. But you are young and energetic. You might have better luck finding the balance. She nodded thoughtfully and gathered her tiny purse. Thank you again for this. I really appreciate your honesty. Anytime, I replied. I am here if you need anything. As she walked away, I allowed myself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. The weekend could not come fast enough. I arrived at my former home, their home now, on Saturday morning with a bag full of groceries and a carefully planned agenda. The house looked exactly the same, except for a few touches that were clearly Lexi's doing. Fresh flowers on the kitchen counter, scented candles in the living room, throw pillows that clashed horribly with the couch I had picked out. Ethan was nowhere to be seen, which was perfect. He is at the gym, Lexi explained as she let me in. He said he would be back around noon. Perfect. That gives us plenty of time to prep everything. I had chosen to teach her how to make Ethan's favorite meal, beef bourguignon with roasted vegetables and homemade bread. It was a complex dish that required precise timing and multiple techniques. Under normal circumstances, I would have suggested starting with something simpler, but these were not normal circumstances. This looks really complicated, Lexi said, studying the recipe I had printed out for her. It is a bit involved, I admitted, but Ethan absolutely loves it. I used to make it for special occasions, anniversaries, promotions, that sort of thing. He always said it was better than any restaurant. Okay, where do we start? I walked her through each step slowly and deliberately. How to properly brown the beef, how to build the flavor base, how to time everything so it would be ready exactly when needed. I showed her how to check the doneness of the meat, how to adjust the seasoning, how to present it attractively. But I also made sure to emphasize how long everything took, how much attention the dish required, how easy it was to ruin if you were not careful. The key is constant vigilance, I explained as we stirred the simmering pot. You cannot just set it and forget it. You need to check on it every 15 minutes, adjust the heat, taste the sauce, make sure nothing is burning. This is a lot of work for one meal, she said, wiping sweat from her forehead. Welcome to Ethan's world, I replied cheerfully. He has very high standards when it comes to food. But it is worth it when you see how happy it makes him. As we worked, I shared more stories about my life with Ethan. How I had learned to anticipate his needs. How I had gradually taken on more and more responsibilities to make his life easier. How I had eventually found myself managing every aspect of his existence. It sounds exhausting, Lexi said as she kneaded the bread dough. It can be, I agreed. But that is what love is, right? Putting someone else's needs first. She looked thoughtful but did not respond. When Ethan walked in at 12:30, the kitchen smelled incredible, and Lexi was flushed with pride and exhaustion. Something smells amazing in here, he said, kissing Lexi on the cheek and barely acknowledging me. Lexi made beef bourguignon, I said brightly. I just provided a little guidance. Wow, that is ambitious, he said, lifting the lid to peer into the pot. It smells right. We will see how it tastes. I watched Lexi's face fall slightly at his lukewarm response. Sarah says it is your favorite, she said hopefully. It is, he replied, but his attention was already shifting to his phone. What time will it be ready? I have a conference call at 2. About an hour, Lexi said, looking to me for confirmation. Maybe a little longer, I corrected. You do not want to rush it. Ethan frowned. I need to eat before my call. I could make you a sandwich, Lexi offered quickly. No, I will wait. Just make sure it is ready on time. He disappeared into his home office, leaving Lexi looking stressed and deflated. Do not worry, I said gently. He is just hangry. He will be much happier once he eats. But I could see the doubt creeping into her eyes. The meal was ready at 1:45, perfectly timed despite Ethan's pressure. I helped Lexi plate everything beautifully and set the table with the good china. This looks incredible, I said, and it really did. You should be proud of yourself. Ethan emerged from his office exactly at 2, looking impatient. I have 5 minutes to eat before my call, he announced. Can you reschedule? Lexi asked. I spent all morning cooking this. No, I cannot reschedule. This is an important client. He sat down and began eating quickly, barely tasting the food. I watched Lexi's face as she realized that her hours of work were being consumed like fast food. How is it? She asked tentatively. Good, he said without looking up. Maybe a little too much salt in the sauce, and the meat could be more tender, but it is good. I saw her wince at the criticism. I thought it was perfect, I said diplomatically. Better than most restaurants. The technique is right, Ethan said, still eating rapidly. Just needs some refinement. He finished his plate in under 3 minutes, kissed Lexi quickly on the forehead, and disappeared back into his office. I am sorry, I said after he left. He gets focused when he has work calls. It is fine, Lexi said, but she was clearly hurt. I just thought he would be more appreciative. He is, I assured her. He just shows it differently than you might expect. But I could see her starting to question things. Over the next few weeks, I continued my education campaign. I gave Lexi detailed lists of Ethan's preferences, taught her his routines, and helped her navigate the increasingly complex demands of being his girlfriend. I showed her how to organize his closet, how to manage his social calendar, how to handle his interactions with his mother. I explained his exercise routine, his work schedule, his TV preferences, and his sleeping habits. And with each lesson, I watched her enthusiasm dim a little more. Does he ever do anything for himself? She asked one afternoon as we folded his laundry according to his specifications. What do you mean? I feel like I am his personal assistant, not his girlfriend. I do his shopping, I make his meals, I organize his life. What does he do for me? I paused, considering my answer carefully. He provides for you, I said finally. He takes care of the big picture stuff while you handle the details. It is a partnership. But what about romance? What about spontaneity? What about just fun? Ethan is not really a spontaneous person, I explained. He likes routine and predictability. But he shows his love through actions, not grand gestures. What actions? I struggled to come up with examples. The truth was, Ethan had become increasingly self-absorbed over the years, expecting more and more while giving less and less. But I could not say that directly. He works hard to give you a comfortable life, I said instead. He includes you in his world, introduces you to his friends, makes you part of his routine. For him, that is love. But I could see she was not buying it anymore. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. Lexi called me, crying. I cannot do this anymore, she sobbed into the phone. I feel like I am losing myself. What happened? His mother called today while he was at work. She spent 20 minutes lecturing me about how I was too young for him, how I was obviously just using him for money, how I would never be good enough for her son. And when I told Ethan about it, he just said I needed to try harder to win her over. I am sorry, I said, genuinely meaning it. She can be difficult. And then he criticized the dinner I made because the vegetables were not cut uniformly. He actually got out a ruler, Sarah. A ruler. And when I got upset about it, he said I was being too sensitive and that if I wanted to be with him, I needed to accept his standards. That does sound frustrating. I feel like I am walking on eggshells all the time. I am constantly worried about doing something wrong, forgetting some detail, not meeting his expectations. This is not what I thought a relationship would be like. I let her cry for a few minutes before responding. You know, I said carefully, you do not have to stay with someone who makes you feel that way. But I love him, she said, though her voice lacked conviction. Do you? Or do you love the idea of him? The successful lawyer, the nice house, the status? There was a long pause. I do not know anymore, she admitted. I thought I did, but now I am not sure I even know who he really is. All I know is his routines and his preferences and his demands. That is not love, I said gently. That is servitude. Is that what it was like for you? I took a deep breath. For the last few years, yes. I lost myself trying to be perfect for him. I became so focused on meeting his needs that I forgot I had needs too. And when I finally started to remember, he decided he needed someone who would not ask for anything in return. Someone like me. Someone like you were when you started dating him. Young, eager to please, willing to adapt to his world instead of expecting him to adapt to yours. I feel so stupid, she said. You are not stupid. You are young and you believed what you wanted to believe. We all do that sometimes. I do not know how to get out of this. I moved in with him, I left my apartment, I turned down other opportunities because I thought we had a future together. You can get out, I said firmly. You are 24 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. Do not waste it trying to fix someone who does not want to be fixed. But what about him? What about us? What about you? I countered. What about your dreams, your goals, your happiness? When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Another long pause. I cannot even remember, she said quietly. Then you have your answer. 2 days later, Lexi texted me. I am leaving him. I applied for graduate school, and I am moving back in with my roommate. Thank you for everything. I know you were trying to help me understand him, but what I understood was that I deserve better. I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and genuine affection for this young woman who had finally found her backbone. You absolutely deserve better, I texted back. Good luck with everything. I am proud of you for choosing yourself. Can I ask you something? She replied. Did you know this would happen when you started helping me? I considered lying, but she deserved honesty. I hoped you would figure it out, I admitted. I could not tell you to leave him. You had to realize it for yourself. But I wanted you to see what you were really signing up for. You saved me from wasting years of my life. Thank you. You saved yourself. I just gave you the information you needed to make an informed decision. That was the last I heard from her for 2 weeks. Then on a Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can we talk? I made a mistake. I miss you. No one gets me like you do. I read the message 3 times, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no hurt, no temptation to respond with anything other than the truth. I opened my camera app and took a photo of myself. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop, wearing a red dress I had bought the week before, looking genuinely happy for the first time in months. Next to me, barely visible in the frame, was David, a man I had met at a book club who was actually my age, and who treated me like an equal partner rather than a personal assistant. I sent the photo to Ethan with a simple caption. Do not worry. I trained him too. But that was a lie. David did not need training. He was a fully formed adult who could fold his own socks, make his own breakfast, and handle his own relationship with his mother. He was someone who wanted to build a life with me, not have me manage his life for him. He was everything Ethan was not. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lexi. Saw your post on Instagram. You look amazing. Coffee soon. I would love that, I replied. And I meant it. This young woman who had been my unwitting accomplice in the perfect revenge had become something I had not expected. A friend. We met the following Saturday at the same cafe where I had first begun her education. She looked different now, more confident, more herself. Her hair was styled in a way that suited her face rather than what she thought men wanted to see. She was wearing clothes that fit her personality instead of trying to look like someone else's idea of the perfect girlfriend. You look great, I said as she sat down. I feel great, she replied. I start graduate school next month. I am going to study environmental law. That is wonderful. What changed your mind about law school? Being with Ethan, actually. I realized I was attracted to his success and his intelligence, but I was approaching it all wrong. Instead of trying to be the perfect accessory to someone else's career, I decided to build my own. That is incredibly mature. I learned from the best, she said with a grin. Speaking of which, tell me about this new guy. He looks much more age-appropriate. I laughed. His name is David. He is a professor at the university. We met at a book club. A book club? How wonderfully normal. I know, right? He reads actual books, not just legal briefs. He cooks for me sometimes. He asks about my day, and actually listens to the answers. He has never once criticized my folding technique. Revolutionary, she said sarcastically. The crazy thing is, I had forgotten that relationships could be easy. I had gotten so used to working constantly to make someone else happy that I forgot I was supposed to be happy too. I almost made the same mistake, she admitted. I was so focused on being what he wanted that I lost track of what I wanted. What do you want now? Everything, she said with a smile. I want to travel, I want to learn, I want to make a difference in the world. I want to date people who challenge me intellectually, not people who expect me to manage their lives. I want to be a partner, not a servant. That sounds perfect. What about you? Are you happy? I considered the question seriously. I am, I said, surprised by how true it felt. For the first time in years, I am genuinely happy. I have my own life, my own goals, my own identity. I am not defined by someone else's needs or expectations. And Ethan? What about him? Do you think he has learned anything from all this? I thought about his pathetic text message, his assumption that I would be waiting for him to realize his mistake. I doubt it, I said honestly. I think he is probably looking for someone new to train. Someone who will take care of him without asking for anything in return. That is sad. It is. But it is not my problem anymore. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the world go by outside the cafe windows. Can I tell you something? Lexi said finally. Of course. When I first met you, I thought you were pathetic. I thought you were this bitter ex-wife who could not let go. I felt sorry for you. And now I think you are brilliant. You got the perfect revenge without lifting a finger. You just gave me enough information to see the truth for myself. The truth was always there, I said. I just helped you recognize it. Do you think he knows what you did? I think he suspects. But he will never admit it, even to himself. That would require acknowledging that the problem was not me being too controlling or you being too young, or any of the other excuses he makes. It would require admitting that he is the common denominator in all his failed relationships. And he will never do that. Probably not. But that is okay. I am not trying to change him anymore. I am just trying to live my life. Speaking of which, she said, pulling out her phone, I have to show you something. She scrolled through her Instagram feed and handed me the phone. It was a post from Ethan's account. A photo of him at a bar, looking older and more tired than I had ever seen him, with the caption, "Back to the single life." He looks miserable, I observed. He should be. He had two amazing women who were willing to love him. And he threw both of us away for completely different reasons. You for being too independent, me for being too dependent. There is no pleasing someone like that. There really is not. Do you regret it? The revenge, I mean. I thought about it seriously. No, I said finally. I regret the years I spent trying to be someone I was not. I regret losing myself in someone else's expectations. But I do not regret showing you who he really was, and I do not regret the way it ended. Good, she said firmly. Because you saved us both. We saved each other. As we prepared to leave, Lexi hesitated. Can I ask you for one more favor? Sure. When you inevitably run into him somewhere, because you will, this is not a big city, will you give him a message from me? What message? Tell him I said thank you. Thank you for showing me exactly what I do not want in a partner. Thank you for teaching me to value myself. And thank you for being such a perfect example of what happens when someone chooses ego over empathy. I smiled. I will be sure to pass that along. And Sarah? Yes. Next time you see him, make sure you are wearing that red dress. I laughed out loud. Deal. As we walked out of the cafe together, I felt a sense of completion I had not expected. This young woman who had been my husband's replacement had become something far more valuable. A reminder that women do not have to compete with each other for men who are not worth having. We had both learned the same lesson, just from different angles. Love should not require you to lose yourself. A good partner should not need to be managed like a child. And sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. My phone buzzed with another text from Ethan. I know you are angry, but we could try again. I have changed. I showed the message to Lexi, who rolled her eyes. Some people never learn, she said. No, I agreed. But some people do. I deleted the message without responding and put my phone away. I had said everything I needed to say. The red dress had spoken for itself. If you enjoyed this story of sweet revenge and female empowerment, please subscribe to our channel for more incredible real-life stories. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You would not want to miss what happens when karma comes calling. Your support means the world to us, and we love sharing these powerful stories with you. Subscribe now and join our community of strong, independent people who know their worth.